All right. So let's go to the last story of the day. And this one to me is important. It's important for a couple different reasons. And it's going to get me some heat by talking about it. But you guys need to hear me out before you get all crazy mad at me. So earlier today, this article popped up from Cinemablend. Okay. Discussing Film here summarizes it by saying, Zack Snyder says he left Justice League because my family needs me more than this bullshit. And I just needed to honor them and do the best I can to heal that world. I had no energy to fight the studio and fight for the movie. And if you followed anything in regards to the story, you know exactly what he's talking about. In early 2017, his daughter Autumn took her life. He was in the post-production phase of Justice League. They were in the process of getting ready to go to reshoots. And it took him out. And Warner's, they talked him and they bullied him, I think. They pressured him into stepping aside. And they brought in Joss Whedon, and the rest is history. And it's a terrible, tragic story, and we know for a fact how it ended. It ended with the movie bombing, only pulling in $650 million worldwide, and then starting the Release the Snyder Cut movement, which has been successful, and we'll see the release of the movie here, some people argue, by the end of March. I don't know. That's a Grace Randolph thing. But before I go into this next segment, I want to just quickly talk about the concept here of studios and how they operate. And why people out there who oftentimes criticize Warner's for their actions, and I do think there's a lot there to criticize, they fail to look at the broader picture. The question then becomes, why not just delay the film? Well, it takes a lot to do a global rollout of a major blockbuster. There's merchandising, there's marketing in different regions, there's a whole bunch of different things that go into it. It's literally a global event. It's not something that you can just pause, especially when the marketing starts. I mean, look at the delays from this last year. We were seeing, even right now at Walmart, there's Top Gun Maverick merchandise that was meant to coincide with the release of the movie in December when it was originally pushed back from its June release. I saw Wonder Woman 84 merchandise in Walmart like just months and months and months before the movie came out because of the merchandising push. Because that stuff has to go and get approved and get manufactured and put out. I mean, look, you ever watch all the way through the end credits of a movie and it says like this funded, like this employed 15,000 people, right? It's not just one person or one small group of people. It is an entire worldwide operation with multiple pieces. And if those get kind of knocked out of, they get knocked down, it can cause delays and cost money. Now, the truth of the matter is it cost Warner's anyway, and they should have actually gone and done that. They should have pulled the plug and delayed it till Zack was ready, but they didn't. But that's the reality of it. They were stuck between a rock and a hard place, literally. And that's the method that they chose. And then Kevin Tushihara, cutting the film down to 2 hours, I think knew that the quality of the product was lacking. And there's a lot more that goes into that, okay? But that is the basis for where we find ourselves. But the Cinemablend article, this is what I have a problem with, okay? And when I bring up problem, this is a criticism based upon ethics, okay? I want you guys to, I have to specify that. I have to clarify that because this is an issue involving ethics and conflict of interest. Okay, so what we have here is this article, the real story behind why Zack Snyder left Justice League in 2017. So the article starts off by giving us the real story behind what happened, written by Sean O'Connell. Perfectly fine. So he talks about it, right? I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But in the second paragraph, he says, on March 1st, a book I wrote called The Release the Snyder Cut will drop in stores and online. And here's a link to pre-order the book. The book explains in detail what happened to Zack Snyder behind the scenes, while also following the 3-year effort spent by Snyder's most dedicated fans to get Warner Bros. To finally release his original cut. And the thing is, I support the book. I support Sean's ability to write the book. My problem here becomes that this piece, this quote mined piece about Zack right here, talking about what happened that he got from his interview with Zack, is used as the pretense in order to push sales of his book on a website that he does not own but is employed by. And even at the end here, again, he talks about it again, brings up here the final paragraph is not about Zack, it's about his book. And again, I have no issue with the marketing of the book itself, nothing like that. Not even Sean. I'm not even mad at Sean for this, but this is when I bring up the idea of things being a conflict of interest. This is a conflict of interest because his book is a for-profit endeavor. Yes, he is donating money. I think half the proceeds are going to AFSP, which is amazing, but that's still for profit. Sean, according to his Twitter account here, is the managing director of Cinemablend, not the owner of Cinemablend. Maybe he does. I don't know. I don't know his full background. If he does, then this entire thing is moot. But if he's just the managing director of Cinemablend, then he's an employee. Now, the likelihood of them coming out and allowing him to post this is probably high. Okay. And I posed this question on Twitter and he has not responded. So I'm bringing it up here on my show because this is an ethics issue, a conflict of interest issue that I view as being something that is somewhat unethical. At no point in here do I feel that this meets the standard of disclosure in a way that that is not seen as being an ad. I think they should put advertisement in here. Or have another person who works at Cinemablend write this article, use Sean's quote from the book, and then link to the book and just say, this is written by one of our staff members, by our managing director. You can pre-order the book here if you want to support it. But that's not what they did. That's not what he did. He's using his position of power and privilege within the confines of Cinemablend to market his for-profit book under the pretense of quote mining Zack Snyder for it. Because the title here has nothing to do with his book. And the entire piece of the article, the meat of the article, has everything to do with his book. And that one quote from Zack. And that's my criticism on this. It's not a bad article. I'm not saying pull it down. All I'm saying is for the sake of ethical practices within enthusiast entertainment, it's best to just be on the safe side. Now, if you're asking why I'm talking about it, if you're asking why I care, almost 6 years ago, I was in something called Gamergate, or no, 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago. And that gets a lot of flack from people online. And I was always of the ethics and video game journalism approach to it. That's where I was. That's what I always cared about. The culture war stuff was part of it, but it was never a big deal for me. It was really about the ethics. Some people called me an ethics cuck. I still catch crap for it these days, but I stand by fighting for ethics. And back then we discovered that Kotaku journalists had actually written puff pieces very similar to this about their friends and the games that they made, or their live-in partner and the games they've made, or people that they were engaged in relationship with and not disclosing that information. This is not the same as that, but the parallels are there. And that is why I have an issue with it. And I would like Sean to address it. I would like Sean to make a post or to amend the article to be more transparent. I mean, don't get me wrong. The article in and of itself is pretty transparent when you read it, but the pretense of it is clickbait. The pretense of it is not factual. Yes, you're getting a bit of the story from his book, but it's not author, of release the Snyder Cut, there's ways to formulate it a bit better. This is sloppy journalism. I ran this past other journalists that I know, and even they said this is a conflict of interest and they would not have allowed it to be published on their website. Something to consider, a little bit of food for thought. And one of the reasons why and the story goes a bit deeper too. It really does. So as this story began to circulate around Twitter this morning, Stephen Weintraub, Frosty from Collider, posted this GIF of Ryan Gosling laughing, this meme, under the playlist who had talked about this article. Again, Another factor here is that these people are reiterating this quote, linking back to an article that's an advertisement for a book without there being a direct advertisement. You know what? It just, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But anyway, a lot of people called him out for this because the reason why Zack stepped away was because of how things happened with Autumn. And Steven, he did ultimately delete this, but then he wanted to come back and he wanted to be a little frosty himself. You know, he wanted to come out a little frosty and say here, my least favorite people on Twitter are the Snyder Bros who think that they know everything about the making of Justice League. Let me be clear. I'm looking forward to seeing the new 4-hour cut. I'm sure it will be better than the movie. Sure. Right. But then he has another follow-up tweet here where he says, but there was a lot of stuff going on when that movie was being filmed and edited that still hasn't come out. One day, maybe it will, but I've been doing this job for 15 years and you're coming at me like I just joined the internet and don't know what I'm talking about. And I like Rasha here's response. Aw, there's the victim card. So good of you to follow the formula. Well done, little Steve. Here's a gold star for your clout card. 100%. Because his response to the article was mocking Autumn, it felt like to many people. It was mocking Zack's pain. And at no point in these two tweets has he come out and said anything about the pain Zack went through and understanding why he did what he did. It's really telling. It's really telling when you get people who work in the space and, you know, these are the gatekeepers. Let's be fair. These are the gatekeepers of this information. These are the gatekeepers. They don't want to lose their influence. They don't want to lose their ability to get access. We call them access media for a reason. When you look at this sort of thing, you know, Steven Weintraub here, he interviews all the celebrities. He lives in LA. He works in Burbank. He works for Collider. You know, he goes and hosts all these events. He hosts Comic-Con panels. Doesn't mean he's not a piece of shit for what he said. I mean, he's absolutely a piece of shit for that GIF, for that meme. And then this sorry, not sorry response is even worse. It's even worse. And the thing is, look at him getting ratioed here. 179 quote tweets, 120. Let's see what people are saying about this. All right, let's see here. But a lot of stuff was going on. You still chose to be a dick and cry at someone's pain. You and Scott Mendelson should team up. Yeah. Connor here says, the man lost his daughter and your response was laughter. You're actually pathetic. Keko says, you literally laughed at a guy who lost his daughter. Karen Desai says, 15 years on the job and you're still trash as a movie news reporting site. You are so bad that Grace Randolph is better than you at movie news reporting. That's very true. The Rent Collector says, classic Dunning-Kruger effect. Amount of times I've heard Knuts this say I've got 15 years experience, but completely dumb AF. They don't. Okay. Yeah. Proper punctuation. Unfiltered says you're a fucking clown and you definitely don't know what you're talking about. Michael here says the motto of a true piece of shit. And it goes on and on and on. Right. You know, and then, but I got to give it up here to Skylar Schuler, who is not my favorite person in regards to movie journalists, but I give him credit here. He says, you posted a laughing GIF with zero context to a story talking about how Snyder had zero energy because of the loss of his child. You can't post some tasteless GIF with no context and then get all pissy because people pointed out how tasteless it looks. And I agree on that one. And of course, Lou here says, LMFAO asshole. And he is. He's an asshole for it. He's an absolute asshole for it. And that is, that's Collider in a nutshell at this point. That is Collider in an absolute nutshell. These guys, man, you know, a year ago when Mark Fernandez fired everybody and then went to like the woe is me aspect of it. And the other guy who was talking all that trash, you know, and then you still got Roxy Stryer who puts on a show every day. She puts on a live stream every day. She goes out there, talks to her fans every day while she's trying to navigate COVID and she's trying to find work and stay alive in LA, you know? So she's trying. Whatever you think of her, she's still running the hustle. But you got Frosty here. Comfortable from Burbank. Mr. Steven Weintraub. Comfortable from his position at Collider. And it's just, that's such a shitbag thing to do. Such a terrible thing to say. You know, criticize the movie. You criticize Zack's directing. Criticize a lot of stuff. I criticize a lot of stuff. Criticize a lot of stuff. But man, come on. His daughter took her own life. The man was broken and asked to finish a multi-$100 million movie to have it ready by the holiday season when his mind was elsewhere because his family was destroyed, gutted from the inside out. To have no empathy for that is terrible. And it's disgusting. And Stephen Weintraub, you are a disgusting garbage person for it. And your response of sorry, not sorry, doesn't make you come across any better. It makes you look like a bitch.